Hey, good day, folks. Welcome to another episode of Andrew's Life. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. We're going to be driving through the town of Clear Lake, South Dakota, which is located towards the northeast region of the state. And Clear Lake, South Dakota is basically a real small town. It's got a population of only 1,218 people. It is a shrinking town that has lost 4.3% of its population as of the 2020 census. And I'm going to tell you guys off the cuff, and this is my guess. It's not based on no research. This is just my educated guess. I'm going to assume the main reason why this town is losing so many people is because of how far it is from larger cities. I mean, Clear Lake is an hour and 25 minutes or so from Sioux Falls, which is going to be the closest major metro city to here. Now, as far as bigger cities, well, when I say bigger, I'm talking 20-some thousand people. I mean, you got Brookings, South Dakota, which is 38 minutes from here. And you got Watertown, South Dakota, which is 32 minutes from here. And I've just uploaded a video of Watertown last night, so feel free to go watch those videos. But basically, you got two cities, both of which only got 20-some thousand population. Those are going to be your two cities closest to here. So yeah, so I'm going to assume that's going to be the reason why this town is shrinking in population, as opposed to growing or even staying stagnant. And of course, you got to take into consideration that here in South Dakota, they got relatively cold and long and snowy winters. Now, when I say snowy, it's not going to be as much snow as what you'll get in the Northeast. It's not going to be crazy like that. But between the snow and the sub-zero temperatures that you get in this region of the country, a lot of people, I'm guessing, are not going to want to have to get up extra early and scrape tons of ice off their window, warm up their vehicle, and then they gotta drive a gazillion miles to get anywhere. And typically, when you live in smaller communities, your job opportunities are not going to be as plentiful, and the opportunities that are available typically aren't going to pay as well. So I would say for those reasons, the population here is declining. Now, when it comes to housing prices here, housing here is relatively affordable. I mean, you can buy a house here for as low as 130 grand. The median home price is at $146,000, which in this housing market is fairly low. But again, bear in mind, if you live out here, you're going to have to drive a little farther to get to basic amenities, to include places of employment, for most of you anyway. And if you're looking to rent, median rent prices, according to my research, are going to go from $560 to $1,320 a month. So rent prices aren't terrible. I'm not sure how many properties out here are up for rent. And when it comes to the climate, I mean, apparently they get 26 inches of rain here per year, which, as I've told you guys before, in this region of the country, the climate here tends to be a little more drier than areas further east. So you get 26 inches of rain per year, as where the national average is 38 inches. When it comes to snow, you get 42 inches per year. As for the national average for snow is 28 inches, so you'll get a little bit more snow than average up here. But then again, that could be expected given how far north you are. And when it comes to days of sun, you get a whopping 212 days of sunlight per year, of sunny days per year, which is fairly decent. So for all them cold days, which you'll have plenty of up here, at least you'll have a little bit of sunlight. At least it's not going to always be cold and overcast like it is during the winter time in many of your places further east. I mean, the average days of sunlight per year is 205. That's the national average. Here you get 212, which is pretty good. And South Dakota, much like North Dakota, when it comes to your summertime, when it comes to the summer, typically your climate is going to be relatively comfortable. You couldn't really ask for a much better summer than what you'll get in the Dakotas. I mean, for the most part, summers here are going to be short-lived. However, your summers here will be relatively mild. And what I mean by that is your temperatures for the most part aren't going to go much above the mid-80s. Humidity up here is going to remain relatively low, much lower than many other parts of the country, much lower than places further east. Now, you will have days where the temperatures up here will get into the triple digits and the humidity will get a bit on the high side. And even up here, when the humidity gets on the high side, it's not going to be like, it's not going to be the same type of humidity that you'll get in, let's say, the deep south. It's not going to be that. It's not going to be like that. Even on this worst days, the humidity ain't going to be that bad. Now, come winter time, which winter times up here are long and cold and sometimes downright brutal. In fact, if you come up here to South Dakota, much like North Dakota, if you're driving down Interstate 29 or Interstate 90, which are the two major interstates that are in the state of South Dakota, you're gonna see a whole bunch of gates, or not gates, but you're gonna see a whole bunch of arms, kind of like when you go to a toll booth to pay a toll. You know, one car goes through and then an arm comes down, and then once you pay, it lifts back up. You're gonna see a bunch of arms throughout the state on those two major freeways. That is because that's gonna be because up here, just given the type of climate that they get during the winter time, there's gonna be times where there's gonna be so much snow mixed in with sub-zero temperatures that I'm assuming for safety reasons, they're going to have to close down parts of the freeway until they're able to get their plows out to clear the road and salt it to make the roads safe for people to drive on. And as far as it goes for temperatures during the winter, now, based on my research, they're saying that the temperatures up here will get as low as -20. And maybe they're right. Now, I'm thinking the temperatures up here will probably get more like as low as -40. But any which way, whether it be -20, -40, the point that I'm trying to make is the temperatures up here during the winter time will get well below zero. So, when you wake up one day during the winter time up here, if you choose to live here full time, it is going to be normal to wake up and the temperatures be in the negative 20s and 30s, and probably even in the negative 40s in the morning. And then when it warms up, it might warm up to negative 10 or something. Or if you're lucky, you might get a positive temperature, like maybe 10 degrees. So in a nutshell, that's going to be the climate that you're going to get up here. And again, as I've been telling you guys throughout my videos I've made in the Dakota so far, if you move to this town because you come here, you like it, you love the sparse population, maybe you like the fact that it's far from any major cities, if that's you and you want to move up here because of that, I would say, unless you're already familiar and used to this type of climate that I just described a second ago, if you're coming up here from a warmer climate or from a more milder climate, my suggestion to you is don't buy a house right away. Come up here, pay rent, and get a feel for what it's going to be during the winter. Because you might come up here and you might, the sub-zero temperatures day after day after day might drive some of you crazy. So before you invest in buying a house up here, come up here and spend a month or two up here during the winter before you decide to buy a house. And of course, if you can bear the long, cold winters up here, summertime is going to be heaven, as I've told you earlier in the video. Now, I will say one good thing about the winters up here is, and I mean, sometimes up here you'll have communities not far away to where they do have different activities for winter sports. So you might have some children or whatever. Maybe you're into sledding and just doing stuff outdoors in the winter and enjoying the snow. I mean, if you're into that kind of stuff, South Dakota could be your next home. And I will say one thing which I find positive about living in places like North and South Dakota. Well, we're going to talk about South Dakota because this is a South Dakota video. But one thing which I think is good about South Dakota is, despite the long, cold, and brutal winters that they have up here, at least during the winter, you do get an abundance of sunlight. So although it's going to be cold as all get out up here, at least it'll be sunny. At least it's not going to be 40 below zero or 20 below zero, and then you look outside and it's dreary. At least you'll have some sun. I mean, I remember back when I was up in North Dakota, I was working the oil field. I mean, it might be maybe negative 15 degrees, but the sun is out nice and bright. And I don't know about any of you, but for me, the presence of sunlight tends to do something within me. I mean, it tends to put me in a better mood. I mean, studies actually indicate that when you're in an area that has abundance of sun, typically it puts you in a better mood. I mean, I can't think of exactly how they worded it, but when there's something whenever it's sunny, there's some type of a chemical that's within your body that's natural that helps you be in a better mood whenever the sunlight comes out. Because even on days where it's in the negatives, if you're driving in your vehicle and the sun is out, the heat that might come off the sun and into your vehicle, I mean, in some cases that might be enough sun for you to get your daily dose of natural vitamin D. Now, obviously, the best way to get vitamin D from sun is to be somewhere in a warmer climate. But even if you're up here in the Dakotas, I mean, you do get a fair amount of sun. And another thing I want to point out is during the summer months up here, you'll have some, it tends to stay daylight up here a little longer than it does in many other places further east. Like here in South Dakota, much like North Dakota, typically the sun will start to come out around 5-ish in the morning, and the sun typically won't go down until around 9:30. Now there'll be certain times during the summer, like I would say maybe in June and at least part of July, the sun will come up around 5:30 in the morning, and the sun's not gonna, and it's not gonna get like totally dark until after 10 o'clock at night. So I mean, in fact, I made a post, I want to say maybe a month or so ago, when I was up in North Dakota. I mean, it was 10 o'clock at night and it wasn't even all the way dark yet. It was 10 o'clock at night and you can still see daylight. It wasn't all the way dark. And during the summertime, that's how it is up here. So like I said, if you can bear the long, cold winters up here, summer times up here are wonderful. You couldn't ask for a much better summer. I mean, for the most part, the humidity is low. Your temperatures are not going to be too hot. And on top of that, you get an abundance of daylight. And I will say up here, it was refreshing to see a bunch of people outside jogging, riding bikes, kids outside playing, people outside doing yard work and taking care of their house. I mean, like where I live right now, that's one thing which I don't like about where I live. See, I live in Alabama, and I would think Alabama having a climate that it has, you would see people outside more, out and about, just doing whatever. But unfortunately, that's not how it is where I'm living. But up here, even in your small towns and also in your larger cities, people are outside. People are more active. People appear to live a more healthier life. And to me, that's refreshing. Alright folks, that's all I got for my commentary. So feel free to leave a comment below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I will be putting out many more videos. And again, I thank every one of you for tuning in to another episode of Andrew's Life. Y'all have a blessed one. I'll see you on the next one.